Well, one last time. I'm Elijah Campbell here from 107.5 The Game here at Williams-Brice Stadium, also known as the scene of the crime. And the crime today, well, is the 2025 college football season for South Carolina. Final score, Clemson 28, South Carolina 14, meaning the Gamecocks' record for 2025 will go down as 4-8. And what is one of the more colossal disappointments in the history of this program, a season where you're top 15 preseason, end up going into the season winning your first couple of games, get into the top 10, and then one loss to Vanderbilt kind of snowballed into a bunch of other mistakes. And, well, several games later, you're 4-8. And today was kind of a microcosm of everything you've had this season, right? You've seen flashes at times. We saw those in the two big explosive touchdowns to Nick Harbor and Van Jacobs. You've also seen the things that plagued you. Some procedural penalties, pocket collapses, maybe some Lenore Sellers regression and missing throws and throwing key interceptions, not winning the turnover battle. You kind of saw everything today that resulted in a 4-8 season, right? And that's how you end up losing 28-14. That's how you end up going into a fourth quarter where you were down only one score and lost the fourth quarter. We played 12 games this season. South Carolina has been in a one-score game in a good majority of them, and then obviously lose a majority of them. That's not a good way to be able to operate business. That's one thing I asked Coach Beamer about in terms of what happened today. You go into the fourth quarter today, it's a 20-14 game. Your defense was on the field about 3/4 of the game, but you were still in it, right? This is a game in which South Carolina was averaging more than 2 yards better per play than Clemson was, but still wasn't able to be on the field long enough to be able to sustain long drives. Your 2 touchdowns were explosive plays. He didn't run a single play inside Clemson's territory in the first half. All that being said, you still went into the fourth quarter in a one-score game, the same way you did against Missouri. We had a lead going into the fourth quarter. Same way you did at LSU, where you're down 7 going into the fourth quarter. Same thing that you did against Ole Miss, down a score going into the fourth quarter. Texas A&M, up a score going into the fourth quarter and having a 27-point lead in that one too. Many games this year kind of highlighted by your failures in the fourth quarter, and you lose 8-0 in the fourth quarter today. You win only 2 fourth quarters all year. Yeah, you're bound to lose a lot of the closer games that you're in, and it was all kind of compounded today. I think the ultimate cherry on top of this season was what we saw in this back end zone over here, where it is a 20-14 game. South Carolina has a punt down inside the 5-yard line, or Clemson has a punt down inside the 5-yard line. South Carolina has to take over, and you're kind of in a drive for your season type situation. And on the very first play, Lenore Sellers tries to throw it to Nick Harbor. Ball gets batted up in the air, and it gets picked off in return for a touchdown. That's kind of just a microcosm of how this season's gone. And then what turned into a one-score game, or was a one-score game, turns into a 2-score game and is ultimately out of reach. And then, of course, even after that, Nick Harbor gets a catch and fumbles, and Clemson takes over just to be able to milk more time off the clock. But that was exactly the microcosm of this season. And when you think back about this game, we have a very similar theme. I've been doing this for almost every single game that I've covered this season, standing here on the field, telling you what happens, what's the difference between winning or losing in a football game. And so many times this year, I've stood here in Williams-Brice Stadium and said, you had your chances to win a game. Sometimes the other team gives you those chances, invites you in to take them, and you refuse to do so. In a game like today, I don't think Clemson made too many terrible mistakes outside of the interception of Jalen Kilgore in the red zone that took 6 points off the board. But they played a solid game, but you were still in it. You still had your chances, and you, again, just refused to take advantage of it. This is a team in 2025 that just refused to take advantage of any of the close games that you're in or any of the opportunities you were given. It happened today. It's happened in all 8 losses, really, of this team's season. It's one of the more disappointing seasons, not just because of what the preseason expectation was. Anytime you're a top 15 team in the preseason and you go 4-8, it's a colossal disappointment. It's compounded when you lose the games in the manner that they've lost this year. Last year, you won a lot of one-score games and tight games because you had excellent leadership. You made the plays you needed to in the fourth quarter. This same game last year, right, was wearing the same South Carolina shirt at Clemson Stadium last year on the field, talking to you about the plays Lenore Sellers made in the fourth quarter. Scrambling, running for touchdowns, picking up big first downs when you needed to move the sticks, and Demetrius Knight getting an interception on the final drive to seal it. You didn't have any of that this year. You entered in a similar position, down a score going into the fourth quarter, and when you needed a long drive to win the game, you throw an interception as return for a touchdown. Or if you need to try to get a touchdown, you end up catching the ball and you fumble. or you need to get a big stop on 4th down or on 3rd down, and you don't get it. You give up a run, or you give up a 10-yard pass, or in the instance today, right, you had some bad breaks with the roughing the punter penalty, which I personally don't feel like it was a roughing the punter penalty. I think that should have been running into the kicker, which is a difference in a 5-yard penalty and a 15. Don't agree with how that rule was applied. Nonetheless, you were that close to blocking a kick. You didn't. 15-yard penalty extended the Clemson drive, limited the amount of chances you were able to get later in the game. Anything that you could have seen in the previous 11 games for South Carolina this season just really reflected in the game today. And there's going to be plenty of reaction all week long. We'll take your calls on Monday, 803-404-6100. Our last Gamecock Reaction Monday of the season. We will be live starting at 6 a.m. Myself, Preston Thorne, Jen Jensen on the early game, leading all the way up till Jay Phillips and Terry Ford from 3 to 6 and everything in between. A lot of reaction, a lot of post-mortem on this season, and looking at the season through a bird's eye view and looking at how this happened, because there are so many things that you can attribute to a failure of a season like this one ended up being. So again, final score, Clemson 28, South Carolina 14. And for the last time here this season, I'm Elijah Campbell at Williams-Brice Stadium, the scene of the crime. I'll talk to you on Monday morning, and I'll see you back in the stadium in 2026. It's going to be a very, very long offseason.